So I think we can already start.
Okay. So then I just kick off this webinar, right?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. So welcome everybody to this webinar. Glad that you've joined. My name is Oliver. I'm working as a senior solution architect at Alibaba Cloud, and together with our partner Roopu Cloud, I'm very delighted to present this webinar on Ali Cloud today. And I wanted to start with a little introduction to Alibaba Cloud, and then I'll hand over to my dear friend Pablo, who will then give you a more detailed overview about their capabilities and what they are providing on top of Alibaba Cloud. All right. So before I dive into the real technical part, I just wanted to quickly make sure that that we're on the same page regarding what Alibaba Cloud is. And Alibaba, if you haven't heard about Alibaba yet, I'm sure you have heard about the Double 11, which is the world's largest e-commerce festival. So more than 250,000 brands are actually participating this year, or had participated, and it's really astonishing if you're looking, at the pure commercial numbers. Like last year, we achieved $38 billion in 24 hours across all of our e-commerce platforms. And this year, the Double 11 was a bit different. It was 11 days long, and we achieved $74 billion, which is a massive number. It's not only interesting from a commercial point of view, but also from a technical point of view, because as you can imagine, there's a lot of IT and very sophisticated technology involved to make such an event happen. And as you might have already guessed, all of these e-commerce platforms are fully running on Alibaba Cloud. And the numbers here are, I think, interesting. So this year was more than 800 million participating customers. 2.3 billion orders and deliveries, which were orchestrated, coordinated, and delivered. Massive. Then 483,000 orders per second during peak time, which we think is the highest traffic peak which was ever witnessed in the world. And 1.7 billion networks attacks that were successfully mitigated. So why am I showing you this? Because I think it's a great testament actually for the maturity of the Alibaba Cloud platform. Let's remember, all of this is running 100% on Alibaba Cloud. So Alibaba Cloud is not something Alibaba Group has just recently put out, but we are really betting our very core business on this cloud platform. And we started this actually back in 2009. So it's very mature and battle-proven with services that have stood the test of time that we are, of course, already making available to you. So if we're looking at, at the broader picture, how Alibaba actually positions amongst the other cloud providers worldwide, I think we see a very clear indicator here. So for China, if it's about the market in mainland China on the very left here, Alibaba Cloud is the clear market leader with over 40, or almost now, I think the most recent numbers, almost 50% market share, which is bigger than all the other competitors combined. Also, if we look at the Asia-Pacific region, you can see that Alibaba has almost a third of the market share there, far in front of AWS and Microsoft and all the other players. So also a major player in the APAC region. And if we're looking on a global scale, we see that Alibaba Cloud is now at around 10% market share, on a very stable third position before Google, for example. So actually, it's quite a huge market share if you look at all these three individual geographical regions and markets. So we already mentioned it, market share in mainland China, almost 50%. But of course, Alibaba Cloud is not only focused on mainland China, but it's a global company with its roots, of course, in China, but we're a global company. And this is also reflected in our global data centers, which we have around the world, in North America, in Europe, with 2 regions, for example, in London and Frankfurt, Middle East, and then the APAC region, with 2 regions in mainland China. Every region is like a geographic spot in the world, which then in turn consists of a number of different clusters of data centers. And such a cluster is what we call an availability zone. So you can really deploy your applications on different data centers within Frankfurt, for example, to make sure that you achieve a certain degree of high availability and fault tolerance. Also, we have a pretty large CDN network around the world, which you can use from one single Ali Cloud account. That includes, of course, also mainland China. So you can actually, deliver your content really worldwide in every region and part of the world. I think which is a big USP if you compare to other cloud providers, which usually have a separation between international accounts, how they call it, and Chinese accounts. We don't make a difference here. You can actually use all the 22 regions from one single account, which is really great, if you want to cover or if you have a real global strategy that includes every region in the world. So, of course, if we're looking at mainland China, I think Alibaba Cloud is the best partner connecting to digital China for a lot of different reasons. We mentioned already the huge global footprint and the footprint in mainland China with more than 10 regions. It's a very large product and services portfolio consisting of more than 200 products, for example, or services in mainland China, which you can use, and of course, also outside of mainland China. Also, our cloud platform is compliant according to the local law in mainland China, according to the China cybersecurity law, and of course also to the GDPR in Europe. But you can be sure that you have the right platform to be compliant, no matter in which part of the world you're operating. And last but not least, the Alibaba Group ecosystem is also very interesting for a lot of our customers because it's not only cloud, it's not only e-commerce, it's also maps or location-based services that we're providing, especially in mainland China. We're providing entertainment services, like we're hosting the biggest video on-demand and streaming platform called YouQ in mainland China. Also music streaming platforms, logistic platforms, marketing platforms, payment platforms. So if you are running your workloads on Alibaba Cloud, there's actually a lot of benefits involved and a large ecosystem surrounding that will help you to be even more successful with your business. Okay, last slide before we get more technical. Security and compliance. Usually, this is not the most exciting topic, but still, it's a very important topic. As you can see, we have a dedicated website for that, which is called the Alibaba Cloud Trust Center. If you Google for that, you will find it easily, where you can get a very detailed overview about all the certifications we have. But just to make it short here, as you can see, there's global certifications like the ISO 27001. There's regional certifications like the C5 tested for Germany, for example, or we're also part of the Trusted Cloud. There's industry-specific certifications, and of course, we put a huge focus on privacy protection and are really committed to the protection of personal information, which is also reflected in that we're GDPR ready, for example, in Europe, of course, and that we also comply to the China cybersecurity law if you're running your workloads in China. So no matter where you are in the world, you can be sure that you're compliant with the local law. Okay, so then let's get more technical. I don't want to step, of course, through all of these services here, but I just wanted to give you, a very broad overview, a rough overview about the cloud platform and the services here. We will then focus in some more detail on the infrastructure service to give you some highlights, maybe. This is not a comprehensive overview, but just is merely here to show you like the different pillars we have and where we are providing services. So it shouldn't be a surprise that, of course, there's a lot of different things in the computing, networking, and storage layer, like the infrastructure services. We will look into this in some more detail in just a couple of minutes. Then, of course, a lot of different database options that you have for managed databases, big data offerings, artificial intelligence offerings, such as an entire machine learning suite and platform, translation services, chatbots, all of that, IoT offerings for building IoT-based applications. And of course, a large portfolio if it comes to anything in the area of DevOps, monitoring, logging. All of these services are actually services that we use by ourselves internally at Alibaba. So they're really, really mature, and a lot of know-how has been built into that, and a lot of experience from our own scenarios. So let's look into some more detail into some of these areas. And I wanted to start with the elastic computing part, because I think no matter how much fancy services are out there, I think at the end, what is really important is still the infrastructure part. So elastic compute, as you can see, all the usual suspects that you would expect are there, like networking, also serverless compute, which we call function compute, the ability to run managed Kubernetes clusters, for example, elastic GPUs for parallel computing, bare metal instances even that allow you to really get the best performance and physical isolation out of your clusters, server load balancers, auto scaling. A lot of these very important building blocks are there. What is interesting is if we look maybe at some of the more unique capabilities, and this is, for example, here right in the middle, our disk performance. We have a service tier which is called eSSD disks, which gives you IOPS of around 1 million, which is, I think, really, I don't know it from any other cloud provider. Question is always, do you need this kind of performance? That's another question. But if you have really scenarios that need this or can benefit from this, then Ali Cloud here is really a nice technical advantage. Also, if we're talking about service availability in our SLAs, as you can see, if you run your workloads across 2 availability zones, we give you a service availability of 99.995 for your workloads, which is also really high. Okay. Then let's switch over to database products to give you a small glimpse here. As you can see, it's very comprehensive, starting from relational database services that include different engines like MySQL, SQL Server, Postgres, and so on, the MariaDB, and so on and so forth. Also, with cloud native, a cloud native offering, which really nicely separates the compute and storage layer from each other so that you can scale them independently. If you're familiar with Amazon Aurora, that would be really similar to PolarDB. Also, search and time series databases like OpenSearch or based on Elasticsearch is part of our offering. So it's really easy to create a managed Elasticsearch clusters for your workload. Also, if we talk about data backup and migration, we offer different kinds of services that makes this really easy, like the data transport service, which allows you to migrate data in production scenarios from one database on premises to another in the cloud, for example, while the system is running, and it will then replicate the data seamlessly while the workload is still in production. Then NoSQL database services like Redis, Mongo, HBase, TableStore is part of our offering, and also some of the HTAP database approaches like HybridDB and HybridDB for Postgres are also part of our offering. So as you can see, a really broad portfolio, which is really state of the art. Then let's go to the networking part, which I think is also really important because this is also where we have some unique advantages. I don't want to go into too much detail, but the point here is that we are providing different networking solutions and services that allow you to dramatically increase the performance of network connections between mainland China and the rest of the world. As some of you may already know, the public internet bandwidth to mainland China is very limited, so you may experience high latency, packet loss, very unreliable connections. And we provide services like the Cloud Enterprise Network, for example, that allow you to peer different VPCs and cloud networks in different regions with each other through our own private backbone network to have latencies of around 150 milliseconds, for example, between Frankfurt and Shanghai. So that's really a game changer for many companies who need that. Then if you also want to accelerate, your access times to public web servers, we also have service called Global Acceleration, which allows you to do that, to accelerate traffic for your Chinese end customers to a web server which is hosted in Frankfurt, or the other way around. So that's also a very convenient and a very useful feature. Then let's go to storage products. Also the usual suspects you would expect, I guess, like different block storage offerings. We already talked about this. Disks that you can attach to virtual machines with over 1 million IOPS in performance. Object storage, which is API compatible to Amazon's S3, which is, I think, quite nice, especially if we're talking about any kind of migration scenarios. This is really useful. You don't need to touch your code. File storage, table storage, and HDFS storage options for you to choose from. And almost last slide, then I hand over. Also a huge selection of security products, really starting from the basics, like hardware security modules that are, of course, compliant to the specific local law, key management services to bring also your own keys and encrypt your data, SSL certificates, anti-DDoS solutions that work globally, both in mainland China, outside of mainland China, web application firewalls, penetration tests. So all of this is part of our offering. And again, I repeat myself, is actually what we as Alibaba Group are using ourselves. So, and if you remember from the first slide, 1.7 billion network attacks, which were successfully mitigated in 24 hours. I think really this speaks for itself about the quality and maturity of these services. Okay, last slide. Of course, you might wonder, okay, that sounds cool, but how can I ramp up? How can I get this knowledge? And of course, there's different, online learning possibilities, hands-on labs, which are also in part for free, which you will find on our website. There's classroom trainings where we'll send you like a real instructor that can teach you about all the different things on cloud computing, big data, industry solutions, cloud security. And of course, there's also a certification path that you can see from associate, professional to expert in any of these three categories like cloud computing, security, or big data. And of course, partners like Roopu Cloud can also help you to get up to speed and get the required knowledge to pass such certificates, for example. So with that, I'm handing over to my friend Pablo, who will then give you, a better overview about what Roopu Cloud is, what it does, and how they can help you to be successful with Alibaba Cloud. So with that, I stop sharing my screen and hand over to Pablo. And while Pablo is trying to get his screen working, of course, you can paste your questions into the chat, and I'm happy to answer them.
So first of all, Oliver, thank you very much for the great introduction. Found it really interesting and really great. My name is Pablo Puig. I'm the co-founder of Roopu Cloud, as well as Alibaba Cloud certified and MVP. So I have some experience and hands-on on Alibaba Cloud. And the idea is to present to you now the Alibaba Cloud Foundations. Basically, what is it? Why could you need it? What does it include? And those are some questions I'm going to cover, and you will be able to answer until this webinar. Okay. So, but first of all, a short introduction about Roopu Cloud. Basically, did you know that Roopu is a Maori word for an organization, group, or collective? The term is widely used throughout New Zealand as part of the name of organizations, which is basically what we want to transmit. This passion for human groups and organizations is what basically keeps us up and running. And maybe you are also asking yourself why a European company has a Maori name. Well, there is also another reason, which is basically the initials of me and my partner. Next thing is just to explain very fast what Roopu Cloud is. We are a consulting company focused on Alibaba Cloud. And there are 3 values which we are very proud of. We work very close with Alibaba Cloud team, for example, today with Oliver. We are the first company in the world outside of China with 2 MVPs in leadership, me and Alberto, which is something which makes us unique. And we have also an international team, which is formed by cloud professionals. And we are very proud of that. So while working with our customers from different industries in multiple projects, we detected some common challenges. Some were related to the legacy services and old architectures. Other are related to China, like the ICP license, Great Firewall, networking and connectivity. And other related to security, also a very important topic, as well as with hybrid and multi-cloud ecosystems. So therefore, we have developed a product over time based on our experience, customer feedback, and best practices, following a methodology and an implementation process, which makes this product really, really useful to accelerate your journey to Alibaba Cloud. So there are some scenarios we cover with this product, which are the most common, such as, for example, globally integrated intranets, not only in Europe and US, but also in China, covering hybrid and multi-cloud ecosystems, globally integrated CI/CD pipelines, globally available Docker images, which is not that easy. Acceleration of Microsoft Teams and Outlook for China. Globally available web applications as well in China, as well as in Europe and US and other parts of the world. So those are basically the most common scenarios. There are a lot, of course. So I already did an introduction about Roopu Cloud, what was the problem that we detected, how we developed the solution, and what are the use cases. Now it's time to talk about the product itself, the Alibaba Cloud Foundations. So the goal is really clear. We focus on the infrastructure while you can focus on your product. What does this exactly mean? Well, the Alibaba Cloud Foundations is a complete set of solutions to quickly set up and running your infrastructure with a production-ready account. This includes account structure, networking, identity access management, compliance, security, auditing, and everything that is required. You are probably asking yourself, why did these guys call it foundations instead of landing zone, which is actually the common name for this solution? Well, we didn't call it landing zone because our solution is not just based on best practices. It's also based on our experience, on customer feedback, and best practices, which really makes a difference. And that's why we didn't want to give it the landing zone name, and we prefer to choose the foundations name, which takes more topics. And yeah. So you're now probably thinking about the benefits. Basically, Alibaba Cloud offers, Alibaba Cloud Foundations offers a lot of benefits, and will definitely help you to accelerate your organization's digital transformation and innovation. The key, or from a business perspective point of view, there are 4 key takeaways. First of all, it reduces dramatically the time to market, because we already spend a lot of and invest a lot of time and money on developing this product that you will get out of the box. There is also a shift to DevOps and automation that will basically accelerate your development and the delivery of your products. It will increase your scalability, reducing costs and improving the performance for your customers, which is basically the most important thing, that your customers are happy with your product. And of course, it optimizes your costs because it consolidates your billing and gives you more visibility to your accounts, costs, and payments. So we always use a 3-step implementation process. The very first step is assessment. So this is done at the very beginning of our journey, of your journey to the Alibaba Cloud platform. This step usually highlights our customer needs. The second step is basically where the magic happens, the foundations. There is where the basic resources related with governance, auditing, account, networking, and security are created to ensure a smooth transition to the Alibaba Cloud platform. And the third and the last step is the migration itself, which just guide you in making your product work on Alibaba Cloud. This is more a technical overview of the foundations, and this slides gives you a better overview, and it's basically how it looks like from a technical perspective. All the tools of Alibaba Cloud and services and products that are used to build the foundations. But before we finish this short introduction about the Alibaba Cloud Foundations, I would like to share with you a real use case that we have this year with the implementation of the Alibaba Cloud Foundations solution. So the scenario was the following. The customer was an e-commerce, small to medium enterprise based in China, and wanted to have their e-commerce application globally available. So in Europe, in China, in US, and Asia, everywhere. So that basically the users can buy products from their application worldwide. As you can see in the timeline, we were able to implement, deploy, and migrate the whole infrastructure from on-premise to the Alibaba Cloud platform in 2 months, which is basically it was a challenge because of the time was quite reduced, as well as the Kubernetes migration that we did from on-premise to the Alibaba Cloud platform. Yeah, basically, you see that the first contact was in August. We started in the middle of September with the assessment. We started implementing the foundations in October, and almost in 2-3 weeks, we started with the migration, which is basically now over. And now we are just running our testing. So the product is going to go live by the 1st of December. So in a few next week, basically. So the result was very successfully, and although the time was quite reduced, and the Kubernetes migration was also a high challenge. So these are our contacts, our website, and email that you can contact us anytime. Happy to help you. And now we have our Q&A session. So I will stop sharing my, and we will start reading the comments. So the session will be recorded, yes, and we will upload it tomorrow or before, and I will send you an email, or I will share it in our social networks. Okay, there is here a question about South America and Africa region initiatives from Alibaba Cloud. Maybe here, Oliver, you can answer better.
Sure. So South America and Africa region initiatives. So of course, we're constantly looking at the feedback of our customers, and according to this feedback and their requirements, we're planning the next steps. Right now, I don't have anything to share about South America and Africa regions, but of course, we acknowledge that these are very, very important regions, and based on the feedback, we will then also do the future planning. But right now, I don't have anything to share here, unfortunately.
Okay, fair enough. So next question is, every cloud provider wins on data leaving out, including availability zones. How is it more beneficial financially compared with other hyperscalers? I think this is also another question for you, Oliver.
Is that question related to the overall, to the general pricing model of Ali Cloud and the other cloud providers?
Maybe can I put question here? Because we've got to be really careful that we don't overlap.
Sure, yes.
The other teams. Okay, so what I mean is, like, like as a hyperscaler, the data moves from between the AZs and outside the region, is also beneficial for the hyperscalers. So if you can imagine, like, comparing also the cost, of course, everybody gives the equal benefits, no doubt. But then of course, like, majority of times when C-level is like cost reduction, and what are the things, like, why should we go to Alibaba, right? Even if, let's say, in Europe, the Frankfurt region is there for AWS versus Alibaba, then what is the cost benefit I get, right?
Yeah. Okay, I see. So I think first of all, I think there's two things we need to discuss. First of all, any differences in pricing models that may have a positive impact on the overall bill, and second, what discounts in general, or how the list prices itself compare. So regarding the first point, there are some differences in the pricing models, which could be in some scenarios favor Ali Cloud. Just to give you one example, on AWS, there's a traffic fee for traffic between different AZs, availability zones. I think it is 1 cent per gigabyte. For example, on Ali Cloud, there isn't such a fee. If you move data between different availability zones, there's no traffic fee at all. Also, for traffic between different VPCs in the same region, also no traffic fee. So, this could be, depending on your application, already a price saver. Same as for other services like our cloud monitor service, which doesn't come with a pricing fee yet. So there's already some savings available if you look at the pricing models.
No, I think this is good because Oracle Cloud OCI also doing exactly the same as you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing, like, I want to compare, like, the AWS, Azure, and GCP versus you and Oracle, because the traction is all about the cost at the end of the day, not only due to pandemic, but also the budgets are shrinking, you know that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's the reason I just asked the question, but thank you
Yeah, I
for
see.
elaboration. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. And then for the second part, of course, Ali Cloud is a challenger in Europe or in the Western world. We acknowledge that, and of course, we try to win customers, and we hope to win them by our technical capabilities. And I'm convinced that we're doing this mostly because of that. But also, price is also important, and we also acknowledge that since we're a challenger, we can make pretty competitive price offerings as well.
So another question, maybe, like as you know that, I mean, my knowledge is not as good as yours, but if Alibaba doesn't support the Oracle, let's say the majority of the customers who's already locked in with Oracle and they're transitioning to, let's say, Aspera DB, and they already have the existing license to be utilized in the public cloud if they move around. How you are going to take that into account, especially on the not only the migration but also on the commercial side, because like I said, the portability of the license is key for them to basically migrate from on-premise to the public cloud. How that is going to be taken into account if Alibaba is going to propose a solution? Maybe it's a stupid question, but
yeah. Okay, now I understand what you mean. Okay, so for this special scenario, there would be two options. So if the customer needs to keep his licenses, we provide bare metal servers as well, where they can actually deploy their workloads on these bare metal machines and keep their licenses or bring them with them. This is actually what some customers are doing. They're running their Oracle workloads on our bare metal instances, because I think the Oracle licensing is quite complicated, so you cannot just run them on virtual machines. Depends on the cloud provider if there's any special agreements between Oracle and the cloud provider. For us, it's only possible on bare metal.
So, but then
yeah.
One question on the bare metal is that, sorry, maybe I don't want to be an orthodoxist, but just to be like for the customers, we can basically answer on without you bringing here or without let's say on your behalf. The point is like bare metal, of course, that means you basically get some sort of dedicated stuff, or maybe you ask to get more resources from, instead of share services versus the dedicated one. Again, the question comes like, why would you basically bear into account the additional cost when we want to bear into account? Is that a transition also that can help us? For example, let's say I'm working for Nutanix. What we are doing, for example, is like existing license we are trying to move to the public cloud with hyperscalers. Probably Alibaba we're working too. So Nutanix cluster on AWS, but also making sure that we are allowing them to use like the discounting on top, making sure that they only pay for what they use within the bare metal also.
Maybe since this is a very actually complex topic, because it involves different aspects, maybe we could take this offline in an email conversation to see. But just as a there's if we look at our, for example, pure from a technical perspective, there's multiple ways. Bare metal is one. We have also managed Oracle services that you can use based on PolarDB and also based on our relational database service. However, there's always the problem with migrating the licenses and if that's possible or not. And for this topic, I would suggest to have an offline conversation, because there's, I think, multiple ways how you can do that.
I will be interested, because why I'm telling you, we also have, if you look at Nutanix also closed 29% over year growth yesterday. And if you look at the majority came this time from the Asia Pac region. And we also has a lot of G2K accounts where customers are demanding the same thing. Those are the questions basically. I just put it here, making sure that how we can benefit collaboration between the two parties along with Alibaba. As you know that 42% you're winning in the APAC market. It's a huge have the collaboration as well as ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reason I asked. But it definitely will take this offline. That may benefit both the parties, Roopu as well as you, so that we can collaborate together.
Yeah, perfect. Do you have my email or my contact data?
No, but you can put maybe in the chat to Amar Kalvikate. You might have seen, but maybe because definitely this is the use case I personally see where we are also struggling to take into, because Alibaba is the, as you said, it's majority of the consumers are adopting versus the other hyperscalers.
Yeah. Or just shoot me an email, then we can have the discussion offline. And if it makes sense, Pablo, we can also then include you.
Sure.
Let's just see. But yeah.
Fantastic.
Okay, cool.
I got it from Pablo. And thank you for the answer.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Okay. We have another question from Javier. Do you have estimations on cost savings for customers migrating from other public clouds to Alibaba Cloud? I think this answer was already answered by Oliver. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it really depends, but usually there will be a cost saving. It always depends on the exact services that are used and the amount of services, right? But in general, what we observe is that there is a cost saving compared to the other cloud providers, anywhere between as low as 5% to as high as 40%. Really depends.
Okay. We have another question from Maxwell. Alibaba's weak position in the United States and Europe is not hurting its business, as there is a lot of growth in Asia. Is this true? If it is true, why not risk to advance the presence in America?
Well, I would say differently, actually. I would say that there's also a lot of growth in Europe and America.
Yeah, I also see so.
Yeah. So it's not that we're just can't sustain the business because there's growth in China and Asia Pacific. It's quite the other way around. There's growth worldwide, including Europe and America, and we're constantly expanding our capacities also in Europe and North America.
Maybe Maxwell is talking about Latin America.
Latin America. I see. Yeah, as I said, it always depends on the customer feedback and the requirements, and based on that, we're planning the next steps, right? And this is all I can say.
Yeah, I can say something. I can add something. Alibaba Cloud is organizing a Latin America Day event next week on the 2nd of December. Maybe it's a good opportunity to get more inputs about Alibaba Cloud and the plans in Latin America. If you want, I can send you the link to the event, Maxwell. All right. I don't see any more questions. Maybe anyone? No? Then, Oliver, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure for us having you.
Thanks for having me, Pablo. Really appreciate it.
No problem. I think that the event was very good. And if you have any questions, Oliver put his email on the chat. And you can also contact me through the website or direct to info@roopu.cloud. And that was it, basically. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Hope to talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.